I've always had a passion for making things. From as far back as I can remember, I've always had a passion for making. The physical act of having your hands on something and creating something new has always appealed to me and given me a great sense of relief. Well, when I first left school, I wanted to go and study art and design. Unfortunately, at that time, it wasn't possible. So I took up hairdressing, which is a very creative art form in itself, very sculptural. Later in life, when I was 28, I went back to college to study graphic design. I majored in typography, which is the design for and with type, which is very architectural, which in itself, again, is very sculptural. And then eventually I was able to progress into a full-time career as a sculptor. Now, I live in Bridgend in South Wales, midway between Cardiff and Swansea, and it's a lovely area to live. There are many places within 10 minutes of where I live where I know that I can go and be peaceful and collect my thoughts. We have the remains of 12th century castles. We have beautiful rivers, we have beautiful seascapes, we have rocky scenery, we have sand dunes. It's a very spiritual and emotional place to be, and it works for me every time. I've only been working in stone since 2005. I discovered stone in Canada, on English Bay in Vancouver, talking to a local native Canadian Inuit by the name of Red Sky, and we just sat for 2 days solid, sat on the beach carving random shapes out of soapstone, which until that point I'd never heard of before. And it was the most wonderful experience, carving this new, very soft stone with a man I didn't know from Adam, who just talked to me about his Inuit philosophies, and he taught me so much about life. But more than anything, he told me about how the Inuit revere birds almost to a godlike status, because they believe that birds fly between us here on Earth and the spirit world, and they fight off as many evil spirits as they can, only letting the good ones come through, and thereby keeping us safe. I like to work from rough boulders, lumps that have come straight from the ground, as opposed to cut blocks. Cut blocks tend to come with their own parameters, if you like. You're set as to where you start. Whereas with a boulder, you don't know where to begin. You've got to study it, you've got to look at it. You can sit and look at it for days or weeks or months or sometimes even years before it tells you what it wants to be. Every piece of stone has a sculpt inside it, waiting to come out. And once you know what that sculpt is, all you got to do is chip away the rubbish, and you're left with whatever the stone wants to be. I prefer not to work from detailed drawings or from working models. And the reason for that is, if you spend a lot of time working up models or working up detailed drawings, you lose then the ability to change your way on the journey from the beginning to the end. And sometimes you'll come across things in stone in particular that lead you down a different path. So the chances of coming up with something identical to the time you spent drawing is very unlikely. I prefer to start off and take where the journey leads me. I've yet to find a stone that I don't like, and I've never found a stone that I've said I would not use again, because they all have their own character. They all bring something different to the workspace. For me, making something that looks good isn't enough in itself. It has to have a meaning. And I think that's epitomised in another piece I entitled The Rhythm of Life. It incorporates every aspect of life on Earth from the seabed upwards. So you've got what lives under the sea, what lives on the land, what lives in the land, i.e. seeds and plants, animals that live on the land, birds that fly above the land, you've got the sky, you've got the sun, you've got everything incorporated into what is the rhythm of life. I've got a very supportive family. They support me to the hilt every time. And the beauty of being self-employed is that makes me very flexible. So I work when I need to work, and if I don't need to work and I want family time, I can have family time. And that's the beauty of what I do. And it's not only easy, it's a pleasure and it's a privilege to be able to do both together. I've been a supplier and a contributor to BBC Television, to BBC Learning. I've had my work exhibited in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. But I think the highlight of my career to date was I was invited to participate in the BBC TV programme whereby they had the pick of what they described as the cream of British talent. And in my particular episode, I was voted the judge's favourite. And what made me more pleased about that than anything else was when I told my daughter that I'd actually won, she became very emotional. She cried and she told me that she was very proud of me. And I'd waited 52 years for someone to tell me that they were proud of me. And I think that's got to be my proudest moment to date. It still gets me now.